name's Stephanie with Watsonville Wetlands Watch, and today I'm here at one of the 6 sloughs we have here in Watsonville. This one's called West Branch Struve Slough, and today I'm out here trying to see how healthy this wetland is today. I got a couple of equipment with me so I can look into the water and see what's living inside, which will help me see how healthy the wetland is. So today I have a bin, I have a net with really small holes. I've got a scooper so I can scoop up some of that wetland water. And later on I have a couple of jars to fill, a pipette to put it from my bin to my jar, and I have a guide that will help me identify the critters that I find into the water. So let's go see what's living inside this wetland today. Alright, here we are at the edge of West Branch Struve Slough. I'm going to use my scooper first to get 3 scoops of wetland water into my bin. Okay, and now with my net, I'm going to put it into the water and try to scoop out some of the insects. Off my net and put it straight into our bin. Alright, let me try one more time to get one more sample. And now you can kind of see what I got with the net. You might not be able to see it, but in just a minute I'm going to put them into some jars so you can get a closer view. Now that we have our sample of water, what you want to do is you want to let your water settle in the bin, kind of let the bigger, heavier pieces that you caught go down to the bottom of the bin, and the water settles so you can see more of the insects that you caught. Next I'm going to grab a jar, any kind of jar works, and I'm going to use a pipette so that I can try to grab some of the critters from the bin and put it into my jar. That way I can see them closer and try to use my guide to identify what I found. So, I get down to the level of the bin, I put my pipette, and the first thing you want to do is just get a little bit of water in there so that your critters can kind of move around. Okay, next I'm going to try to sneak up on some of these things that are moving, and boy do they move fast. So grab some of the critters. I caught one thing that was moving, and you might notice that besides the critters that are moving around in the bin, I also have some plants in here. One of the plants that you might see at the top of my bin is called duckweed. It's like the world's smallest floating plant. It puts a lot of oxygen into the water and also provides food for those ducks. So kind of have to move around the plants to get some of those critters into your jar. Let's see. I'm going to keep trying to grab some and put it into my jar. Alright, once I caught a few critters, I'll put the lid on my jar. And maybe you can see that I've already pre-filled some of these jars with some critters in here. Not sure what they are yet, but in just a minute we'll look into our guide and see if we can identify any of them. Great. Okay, now that we've collected our samples and put them into our jars, as scientists, today we were trying to figure out how healthy this wetland is. we can use one of our guides here. This was a guide to aquatic invertebrates for this county, Santa Cruz County. And so I'm going to use this guide and look at what I found in my jar and try to match what I have here to any of the insects that are on my guide. Okay? From there, we can kind of tell which aquatic invertebrates we found. And on this top right corner, there's a little box. You may or may not see it. Don't worry, I'll tell you about it. There's groups. There's 3 different groups that aquatic invertebrates can be in. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. So next to the name of every aquatic invertebrate, they have groups and group numbers. Group 1s are insects that are sensitive to pollution. They don't like to be in dirty water. Insects in Group 2 are somewhat sensitive. They're okay with a little bit of pollution into our water. And insects that are in Group 3 are pollution tolerant, so they don't care how dirty the water is, they're still living and swimming in our wetlands. Okay, so one of the critters that I've been able to identify in our jar right here, actually I have like about maybe 15 floating in this jar, are some of these water fleas. Really tiny microscopic little water fleas swimming around. And right next to water fleas it says G3. Remember what G3 stands for Group 3? Group 3 stands for pollution tolerant. That means these water fleas are swimming in our wetlands and they don't depend on the water being clean. They'll swim in any type of pollution, okay? Different types of pollution that can go into our wetlands are things like oil coming off of the cars on the highway. Maybe there's some poop from a dog that the owner forgot to pick up. And so that kind of stuff, when it rains, goes down the storm drains and comes into this wetland. So by us seeing water fleas in the wetlands today, as a scientist, that gives me an indication that, hey, there's some aquatic invertebrates here that are living in what may be some dirty water in our wetlands, okay? But there are some other insects that we found today that are not in G3s, so not in the group that is pollution tolerant. We actually have in this jar a really good example of a scud. And a scud in our field guide is a G2. You remember what the group 2 animals were? They were somewhat sensitive to pollution. So that means that the fact that we found a scud today, as a scientist, that tells me that this water isn't so heavily polluted today, because if there was a lot of poop and oil, trash in this wetland, we would not have found scuds in the water today. So this kind of gives me an indication that the wetland is pretty healthy.